I gotta live like a king. Hey, catch this rhythm. You feel that? That's called playerism. I'm on the scene, a player clean, poker face, 4 queens. I got 4 of a kind on everything. Dig this, living elite. I don't feel complete without kicking at my feet in a Rolls Royce every week. Maybe this is deep. Listen close when I speak. I need to at least, cause I'm too much. Got 2 nuts and give 0 fucks. I've been player too long for you to tell me having 2 women is too wrong. The way I get my groove on. If I can't have 2, then I gotta move on. Even my car is 2-tone. So when I roam, I gotta bring 2 home. Quit banging my line, ho. Quit banging my line, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho.
Understand what we're doing here. Like William, for example, was at the last conference. Brandon,
Come on, baby, get a clue. How you do what you do? How do you fall in love with me, but I'm not in love with you? Quit banging my...
peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints. Today is one of my favorite lectures that I give, which is on trending news. Very important because if one doesn't know what is going on in the world, you'll be lost in the world. In fact, you'll probably be broke in the world. And it turns out in this era, there are a lot of tricks going on, mostly from the world governments and big tech. So not only do we take out the time to talk about what the news is, we also have to take out a little bit of time to interpret what it means and why it's being spun in a particular way, which is to say they're twisting lies and trying to confuse you. So let's get into it. Here we go. First piece of news we want to talk about is, and I found this one to be quite funny. I'm actually going to show you the video clip on this one. I'll try to stay away from video clips and just talk you through, but this one was funny.
While you pulled up, we have Jamal sent tuition and Kevin sent tuition. He said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints. This first piece of news is pretty entertaining because it's just so blatant. I rarely talk about racism. I don't find it to be a very interesting topic. And most of the people who talk about racism are just complaining, right? I mean, let's be real here. They're making excuses for why they're losing in life. But every now and then, you find some of that pure, high quality racism. You know, it's just undeniable. You're like, that right there, that's racism, you know, and so I might as well talk about this one. It's in the news.
Radio said, my favorite topic that you do, about to have dinner with a friend, so I'll catch the replay.
Indeed. And I appreciate those of you who support this work because we're not doing celebrity gossip. We're doing real news here, things that are meaningful to your life.
Solomon said, Big Saint, where is that blazer from the recent Building a Brand stream? I'm guessing it means where is it from?
I see. That one is not one that is or probably will be available, but we are working on a really cool blazer right now, which will be for all the soldiers in the SAS, and you dig, and also keep an ear out because eventually we'll be doing basic training, and that's about 6 months out. But if you are not a person of means, start saving up now so that you can be a part of that. It'll be really cool.
And Austin sent $50 on Cash App.
Baller alert.
He said, supporting the news series.
Wow. Shout out to Austin. That's really meaningful. And you dig, you know, anytime you watch anything, even like PBS, it says, you know, brought to you by viewers like you or sponsored by so-and-so. So I appreciate those of you who are supporting this work and allowing others who might not, you know, feel the abundance to also get educated. So thank you. Now, let's talk about it. This first one is hilarious. And this news clipping is called New York Couple Deny Hosting a Racist Party Mocking Juneteenth Holiday. Well, this is funny to me off the rip because I'm like, what the hell is Juneteenth? I've been trying to figure it out for the last couple of years. But long story short, Juneteenth is apparently a holiday celebrating Black folks. I think. I'm just trying to figure out, how did I make it through American primary school and secondary school and a public elite university and graduate school and not figure out what Juneteenth is? And apparently it's about me. We got too many holidays.
Top Shelf said, "Peace to the saints. If you see me, act like."
I don't know what that
I
means.
think it's your song. If you see me, act like you don't know me.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Oh, you be listening to them bars? You heard me? You be listening to them bars? Shout out. That's what's up. Yes, indeed. She gonna mess around and do some karaoke, be singing the Saint and the Sinner on there. Yeah. By the way, I got two albums on Spotify. Just type in the Saint and the Sinner if you like bars, that is. Now, Juneteenth. I said there's too many holidays because when you get to the point where educated, intelligent, informed men do not know what the holiday means, we got too many damn holidays. Furthermore, Black people have historically been tricked with holidays. You get a Martin Luther King's birthday holiday and you think you've made some progress when in reality you've made no progress whatsoever. And so we need to give up on these holidays. It's silly, especially when there's no deeper meaning, and the meaning must not be deep because I don't know what the hell it is. And I like to consider myself informed. But anyways, apparently there's some white folks who thought this holiday was funny as hell. So I'm going to play this clip for you. But first, let me summarize what they did. They threw a party. It was essentially a Juneteenth themed party. I guess they had some fried chicken there. And I really wish people would stop accusing Black folks exclusively of liking fried chicken because last I heard is delicious. I don't eat fried chicken, but I hear it's delicious. And when I was, up until about age 16, I used to go in on fried chicken, homemade fried chicken made by my mother. It was delicious. When I lived in South Korea, they have fried chicken everywhere. I would posit that the South Koreans like fried chicken more than African Americans in real life. Now, so anyways, they had this Juneteenth theme party. It's mostly white folks. It's hosted by white folks. And then there was a Black fireman who was forced to attend because his boss essentially said so. And during that time, there were some observations of racist things going on. Now, let's play this video clip real quick because I think this is a little bit funny.
Against him. I challenge you, the press, look into their backgrounds. Find anything they've done in their lives, their 50 plus years lives, that's racist.
We didn't have to wait long or go very far to accept that challenge because 25 minutes after it was made, Mary Nicosia admitted she's the owner of an anonymous Twitter account that she and the lawyer admit posted racist tweets. Damn. Mary Nicosia apologized for that. News 10 NBC.
Wow.
Thanks for watching.
So that's pretty funny to me because basically this woman and her husband threw a racist party, and hey, birds of a feather flock together. It's not like the husband was racist and the wife was like, I'm appalled. Nah. He was like, hey, honey, can you find my Ku Klux Klan hat? I lost it. She's like, oh, honey, I just washed it. It's with the whites. It's with the sheets. So, hey, I mean, it's not surprising. Wife's racist, husband's racist, kind of makes sense.
Jose sent a cash app. He said, "What are your thoughts on the Mexican president militarizing all of Mexico?"
I didn't hear about that. And that's a real pity. That has not made it to trending news. And curiously, sometimes I see things on trending news that I'm like, I don't feel like people have really been searching this on Google. So I am suspicious of the Google corporation and what they forward. But I would be curious as to why the the Mexican government is militarizing. I think that certainly they've had a lot of issues with cartels there. And in my time in Mexico, which has been significant, when I was there last in La Ciudad, I was staying in the same hotel as the kind of like the chief of police, if you will. And he had a tremendous amount of security. And it was because there were many attempts on his life by the cartel. And at that time, the Mexican government was basically saying, hey, we're going to ease up our efforts on the cartel because they've been killing a lot of random Mexican citizens in their battle against us as the government, and we ain't winning. So we're about to, cool off. So I think if it's an effort to control the cartels, that makes sense. And one thing we should know is that all governments are basically organized gangs, highly organized, highly violent gangs. And what they don't like are competitors. Mexico has a problem because their government hasn't been able to monopolize violence, which is to say that in America, the American government has monopolized violence. There are no gangs that can rival or compete with or scare the American government. This is another reason you see guys like Joe Biden trying to take away assault rifles so that he can basically, have his government agent goons go out and dominate you and I, and there's no real recourse. They don't have to fear assassination from long range rifles, assault rifles, things like this. So That's something we all have to take seriously. You know, that anytime your arms are taken, it's a threat to your freedom, especially when you're under a state or government that is not righteous. And surely this one is not righteous.
He's saying, according to what he saw starting September 16th, and it's going against the Mexican Constitution, he's just making his own rules.
The government.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. At the end of the day, as the Haitians say, la constitution c'est papier, la bayonet c'est fait, which is to express that a constitution is paper, a bayonet is steel. So, you know, how much is paper or a contract going to get people to behave? You get people to behave through force. And if a population wants a constitution to be respected, it is upon them to exercise force, whether it's through means of social pressure, moral pressure, or taking up arms if it becomes necessary. You know, even we see in this country, America has reserve oil, and that oil is supposed to be used in times of crisis or emergency or war so that we can carry on. But our oil has been sold at a low price to foreign nations. And this has been done by the Biden administration. It is absolutely criminal.
Okay, Marco said, peace to the saints. We know the saint is going to provide some meaningful insight on the news that we won't hear from the mainstream media and some humor to go along with it.
Appreciate you. And that's right. Apparently we need some edutainment, but you know, the news is never really that interesting. I can't believe that we have news as it is today. And if you go back 50 years, they did the news in the exact same way. Hi, this is Bryant Gumbel today in news, and they just bore the hell out of you for 30 minutes.
Dave said racism has least to do with feelings of Caucasian folk. It's more about power, group power.
Racism has least to do with feelings. Huh. I'm not terribly clear on that one and what it means. I thank you for supporting the work. If you want to send a follow-up to clarify, feel free.
Carry on.
Second piece of news. Now, this one I find to be really interesting, and I'm shocked that it hasn't been talked about a lot more because it's strange. Apparently, there is a governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and she's a female. And it seems as though we have a lot of females in positions of power as leaders. And frankly, I don't think it's quite right that we have women in these high offices above men. It just doesn't seem quite right to me. And if you want to talk about it, feel free to send in your request via Cash App, PayPal, or Super Chat. Happy to elaborate. But in short, this article is entitled, and I'm not saying none of them are doing a good job. That's not the case. Some of them are doing a good job. And there's one female governor that I want to speak about during this session because she is in the news. This article is entitled, Why Whitmer Kidnap Trial Ended in Convictions, but Feds Not Out of the Woods. Well, first off, a governor was kidnapped or attempted kidnapped. You would think everyone would be hearing about that. So my first concern here with this piece of news is, why is this not bigger news? That's something you should be concerned with, right? Someone was kidnapped and they actually hold high political office. We should all be concerned as to why we've not heard more about this. It says, prosecutors secured convictions Tuesday of the ringleader in the plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So apparently it was not successful, but there was a real plot. By avoiding mistakes that led to acquittals and deadlocked jury during a mistrial earlier this year. So this is something that actually occurred much earlier, and we are not hearing about it till now. The funny thing, if you search Google trending news, what you'll notice is that most of the news is about sports. Who won the soccer game? What person was sexually assaulted by a football player? What coach was fired on a baseball team? All very trivial things. And this is why the population suffers, because they're occupied by things that are irrelevant to their life. Childish things. Games, in fact. It says the government team streamlined the case and emphasized how ringleaders, Potterville resident Adam Fox and Delaware truck driver Barry Croft, hatched the plot months before FBI informants infiltrated the group in 2020. Now, there's a couple very curious pieces of information. Number one, they referred to one person as Adam Fox and just called him Potterville resident, which is to reference the city that he lives in. Now, they've given us no other information about him. Wouldn't you be curious about the background of someone who's tried to kidnap a sitting governor? I am. Then the other individual, they note that he's a truck driver. I find that kidnapping political figures is quite an advanced task, and I wouldn't think of a truck driver as someone who has the skill set to do such a thing. Rather, I'd expect this to be done by a covert agent of a foreign government, someone in the clandestine services, not a truck driver. So this is curious, and I'm also wondering, well, what pissed these gentlemen off that they felt like they needed to kidnap this broad? Governor. A point that was muddled in the first trial. The detail helped blunt. Oh, yeah. And by the way, it said FBI informants infiltrated the group. Well, this terminology is a little bit strange because, number one, an informant, in reality, this is a euphemism for a snitch. If there's an informant, that means there's a snitch. But when you're talking about infiltrating, that means that you've gone into a group covertly undercover. So this language is very poor, and it's a shame to see a piece of journalism that is poorly written. So when it says FBI informants, an FBI informant is a snitch. But if it says infiltrated, that would suggest that this is a person who is employed by the FBI who was sent to covertly join this group with the intention of exposing them or taking intelligence or stealing, privileged information and undoing the group. So you can't be both an informant and an infiltrator. That doesn't make sense. My guess is that, in short, this was a FBI employee that was sent to infiltrate this group.
Real quick, Austin, who already sent $50 earlier, came back with another $50.
Baller alert.
And he said had to come back for another one.
Another one. Shout out. Appreciate those supporting the work. It really does mean a lot, because as we often say, men pay what they owe. And so thank you very much. He's doing more than his fair share.
Yep. And then Dave came back. He said group power of Caucasian folks over feelings of Caucasian folks. So he's saying the group power. Ah,
I see. So they're doing it to maintain their dominance. Okay. That can make sense.
Neil said tuition, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Busy Bee sent tuition.
Okay. Shout to Busy Bee.
And we have Rick came in on PayPal. He said, peace to the saints, tuition, and thank you for bringing back the trending news. I don't read the paper or watch the news, so I appreciate the true news you speak on.
It is a pleasure. And, I want to thank all of you who support the work. That's really what brought it back. I try to respond to markets as a businessman and, not try to force too much on you guys. I was like, okay, if they don't support the work, that means that they don't enjoy it. So I'm not going to just force things that are not interesting. But a lot of people supported trending news. And so here we are with it back again.
And you have Austin sending $50 twice just for this.
And Austin is a real one. Shout out to the ballers in the building.
And Rick, I did ship off your briefcase. So it is on its way to Canada. And we are down to very few left.
Right. And we sold out of hand wraps. Sold out of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come back.
Out of a few running belts and a few briefcases.
Okay, there you go.
Pierre came in on Cash App. He said, peace to the saints, tuition.
Peace to the saints.
And Johnny followed up with tuition as well.
A real one. The detail helped blunt a defense argument that kidnap plotters were manipulated and entrapped by an FBI team of a dozen informants and agents, and could be a strategy used against 8 people awaiting charges in state court related to the plot. This is terrible writing from this news outlet. This news outlet is called the Detroit News. Goodness, not many good things come out of Detroit anymore. Lord Jesus. Anyways, this is a goddamn run-on sentence. I'm looking at this sentence. It goes on for 4 lines. Let me try to interpret this. Long story short, the FBI basically has been accused of manipulating and entrapping. And this is a fascinating thing. I wonder if this is a real thing or this is just a strategy of the defense attorney. But when you're suggesting that they're manipulating and entrapping, you're basically saying that the FBI sent their agents into this organization or this group of plotters who potentially were planning a kidnapping, or maybe they were planning something less serious. And the FBI agents became the drivers of this illegal activity. They actually became the ones who were encouraging the commission of crime. And I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we look at the history of the FBI, we find that they've been engaged in filthy deeds, namely those with COINTELPRO and the Black Panther Party and some of the assassinations that occurred during that time period.
J. Marco came in via Cash App. He said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the
We
saints.
have Lamarcus. He sent a question and he followed up with another $3 super chat because Little Cash Kid let him know $5 and up to be read.
All right.
He said, what cleanser and moisturizer do you use? Peace to the
And
saints.
that man is civilized. He said cleanser. Wow. I wish I had a great answer for that.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
I wish I had a great answer. I'd say that the number one thing when I tell you all to have 30 minutes of sweat every single day, I think pouring out as much sweat and any toxin, whether it was toxin gathered from the air and environment or your foods, pouring that out in sweat, I think keeps the skin, in really good shape. So that's number one. And he said cleanser and moisturizer. Being that I travel so much, I hate to admit this, I tend to use a lot of lotions at the hotels. Now, granted, these are, you're using Balmain and all of the, high-end designer moisturizers. I also tend to use natural mixtures, one of which I may be releasing soon, but things like cocoa butter.
Yep. Okay, we have SG said, Saint, I recently heard Biden is passing a law that's going to pay off student loans. Not sure if that's true or not. What's your thoughts on that?
I believe that Biden is doing this solely to either get himself reelected or get the Democratic Party reelected in this midterm election or this second election. And I don't think it'll work because he's had too many blunders. Certainly, you don't offer more freebies in an economy that's struggling, going into recession, and was already in debt before you came into office. So I think from a perspective of having a government that's financially solvent, this is a bad move in terms of macroeconomics. However, the way you can benefit if this turns out to go through is that you're going to have less debt, and that's a good thing because student loan debt is one of the few types of debt that cannot be removed in a bankruptcy filing. So it will benefit many of you. And I would also like to point out that a lot of people on the internet claim to be financial gurus while being broke and not knowing anything. There was one moron who took one of my video clips and put it on Instagram where I explained why it's not wise to pay off your student loans in full. I said, maintain the payment, but don't pay them off in full, especially if they're government loans or they're subsidized loans or they're low interest rate loans. He tried to take issue with that using his, basic knowledge and his little certificate that he got in financial planning while being broke. And now you see that the government is absolving you of this student loan debt. So you're going to benefit. And if you would have taken my advice, you benefit way more than a fool who would have already paid off these student loans, which are about to disappear potentially.
SG, sorry, that's none of the above said tuition.
Peace to the saints.
Jundle sent tuition.
Jundle's very consistent. I
He
appreciate
is.
that.
Armand said tuition, peace to the saints.
Hey, good to see you again, Armand.
Corey said, peace to the saints. Great workout last night. Quet, you help me become a better man every day. Want to express that as much as possible.
Now, that really means a lot. And shout out to Corey, because when we're going through our workouts, which are reasonably rigorous, the Saint didn't miss a beat. I tell you, he was right there the whole time. And that's really impressive because these workouts will put people down. Bridget was saying earlier, she was saying, people probably see you work out on Instagram or what have you, and they don't realize how tough it is till they show up. But Corey's a real one, man. He was not slacking.
And when people ask about in-person stuff, you guys get together and work out on a regular basis.
Absolutely. If you're a member at patreon.com/the Saint and the Sinner, not only do you have your membership, not only do you get that exclusive content, which is life-changing, you also get access to our Discord. You get access to a lot of perks. And one of those is our in-person activities, around fitness and otherwise.
Jolik sent tuition.
Shout out to Jolie.
Braxton sent tuition.
Peace to the saints. Good to hear from you, Braxton. Shout out to the folks who who are new supporting the work.
And Brad sent tuition, said peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
And on Cash App, we have Wayne Charles said, peace to the saints. I won't let YouTube get this money.
Hey, I appreciate that. And they really don't deserve it because Google, boy, those are some rascals. And they kicked Andrew Tate off. And I think that this is just the beginning of the censorship, right? You saw Donald Trump be censored. We've seen Andrew Tate. And now we have to make sure that we're laying appropriate plans so that we cannot be silenced because the truth is largely absent from modern society.
we have Mel sent tuition on Cash App. He said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
And Teddy just bought a briefcase. He doesn't want to miss out.
Teddy smart. Teddy smart. Because I got 2 of the brown ones. You dig? Got me a backup.
And Jose came back on Cash App and said, there's been news on people shooting 2 to 3 people lately. I guess he's saying they're shooting multiple people at a time.
Well, I think that's often how it's portrayed. And we're starting to hear the word mass shooting utilized, even if it's not a mass shooting, because there is an actual definition of mass shooting, even though and I did a whole live session on this. So you can go back and check on it if you're a member at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. And I talk about how the news uses the term mass shooting, even if it's like 2 persons, which is not a mass shooting by the actual definition of the term.
And Ricardo said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Carry on.
The convictions of Fox and Croft on kidnapping conspiracy and conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction. A weapon of mass destruction. These boys had a bomb? I mean, let me make sure it's a weapon of mass. I don't really trust that. I don't believe it. Both of which could send them to federal prison for life. For life! I think that's kind of crazy to go to prison for life just for plotting a kidnapping, but you didn't actually kidnap anybody?
Government official, though, I think they...
See, that's what annoys me, because whether you're a government official, a police officer, or a citizen, you're a human, you're a human, you're a human. And that's a part of the sick psychology that the government enforces upon you, which is to make you think that they're somehow divine or somehow above you. And this I even found to be a point of disgust when I was in the UK, and they have a queen, and I look at her and she's been butt ugly since she was a kid, right? And I just think, how is it that you're divinely chosen to rule over others, and this is given to you by God, and God made you ugly? I feel like God doesn't, I mean, that's not favorable, right? So why would he do that to you? Strange. Anyways, so long story short, if we got to have monarchs in the UK, I'm trying to become the king. Y'all need one. You feel me? Carrying on. Now, both of which could send them to federal prison for life, gives prosecutors a landmark victory in the largest case of domestic terrorism in a generation. Is it really domestic terrorism if they're just going at a government official? I always think of terrorism because the definition is you inspire terror. That means you're getting the average, the citizens, the population, they don't feel safe. If you're plotting an assassination, which is of one person, which is targeted for a reason, that is not terrorism. The concept of terrorism is when the population feels levels of fear and uncertainty of what could happen. When would it happen? It's mass fear. This is an individual in government. I don't think that really constitutes terrorism. They're reaching, they dramatize. Federal prosecutors had previously reached deals with 2 others. Ty Garbin, 26 of Heartland Township. These boys are from small towns. Caleb Franks, 28 of Waterford Township. These are relatively young guys who pleaded guilty to federal kidnapping conspiracy charges and testified as government star witnesses, aka snitching. Oh, as a man, if you choose to do something, stand on that. If you choose to do something, don't rat on your friends when the consequences come. That's weak. And I'm not saying that I approve of what they did, but whatever you choose to do, hey, if things go left, you got to go left with it. Cowards.
Teddy didn't want to miss out. He got the running belt also.
Shout out. And I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but just get your running belt. If you don't have your running belt, get your running belt. You should be getting your run in at the very least every other day. It's very important. Let me just say that.
That Korean guy said, flying to Korea this week for a while. Come cruise. Also, just got my real estate license. If you're looking for an investment property in Hawaii, let me know.
Well, congratulations.
About to get that KFC. Shout out to the big homie.
Bruh, you better stay away from that KFC. There's way better fried chicken in South Korea. I hear. I have not experienced. I tried to stay away from, fulfilling stereotypes, but I hear.
Lawrence earlier said when he was in Korea in the 90s, there was lots of Popeyes chicken.
Popeyes?
That's what he said.
That's gutter. See, I couldn't even stoop that low and eat Popeyes. As a black person, I feel like there's certain fried chicken chains that are an insult. Like Church's is an insult because it's only in the ghetto and it's like tremendously greasy.
Popeyes too.
In my hood, they had Church's. They also had Popeyes, but Church's was like really in the gutter. And the only good thing about church is it has so much extra grease. You can just rub it on your elbows, rub it on your elbows, rub it on your knees. You be glossing.
Hey, Matthew said, peace to the saints. Getting this 30 minutes of sweat in. Even with some challenges lately, life has been looking up these last 2 months. Thank you for all you do.
I'm very happy to hear that. Life is always going to have challenges, but the question is how you react. And happiness is a choice. It's a choice that we should all make every day. And getting in that 30 minutes of sweat is a basic in your life, is going to provide those positive endorphins that make you feel good. And most importantly, when you make sure that you don't let anything take you off of that exercise, you keep that central, man, you're protecting your number one asset, which is your health. Shout out to you.
Solomon said, what happened to the Assassin gym shorts? I'm
Not-
not sure which pair he's.
They're still there. The link should be there on the YouTube community page, but let me go ahead and pull that up for you. I'll drop the link in.
I don't know if he's talking about the ones with the Saint logo, or if he's talking about the MTV ones. You have lots of gym shorts.
Yeah, we have lots of workout shorts at mdblabel.com. We have some great workout shorts that I use on a regular basis. If you're talking about the ones that have the Saint in the center logo on them, I'll pull those up for you right now. Caught up?
Yep. We have on Cash App, Joshua, Las Vegas Joshua, came in with $50.
Baller alert.
He said, peace to the Saints tuition.
Peace to the saints. The gentleman is prosperous, always doing well.
Jose is back again on Cash App. He said, what are your thoughts on the Colorado River drying up? And then I think his message got cut off. But
Well, generally speaking, I presume that that's a bad thing from an environmental standpoint. Probably a bad thing. I don't know if it's a source of fresh water. I don't know, what that water is being utilized for, but on the face of it, it would seem like it's a bad thing. Now, does that indicate that climate change is occurring? Well, yeah, probably, but climate change has always been occurring. I'm not entirely convinced that this is something that's entirely, the result of, byproducts of cars and things like that. Certainly everything has an impact, but we've found that in the history of the world, there have been many calamitous things that have occurred, without cars and without people putting, fossil fuels into the atmosphere.
on PayPal, we have Rick is back. He said, can you tell me what the prior assassin challenges were? I'm trying to get them in before I go to work in the morning. I know about the 2 miles for 10 days, 15-minute jump rope for 15 days, and I believe 3 sets of 16 for the burpees. Don't know for how many days.
The burpees was 6 days. So 3 sets of 16 burpees for 6 days. And those are the easy burpees. Make sure you really master that, because if you ever show up and we do a workout, we have some burpees that are a lot more rigorous than that. So make sure you really get that under your belt. You dig? But you got it. Those are the challenges.
Elias said, which path is better if I want to become a millionaire as soon as possible?
Doesn't everyone?
1, becoming a real estate agent and getting into real estate investing, or 2, get into fitness equipment sales or fitness membership sales, and then create my own fitness products programs to try to create a business revolving around selling that.
They both sound like terrible ideas. And just side note, I know a lot of real estate agents. None of them are well off. I know a lot of people in the fitness vertical. It's very crowded, and some of them are getting by all right, but none of the millionaires that I know started as a real estate agent or in the fitness vertical. Not to say that you can't do it. It can be done. You can make $1 million selling anything, really. But when you're talking about the ease or the speed, I don't think those are the two verticals that are going to provide the ease and the speed you're seeking in creating $1 million situation for yourself.
Ivan came in on PayPal. He said, Marquett isn't lying about his workouts. The workout routine that's posted on thesassin.com had me drenched in sweat and sore as hell. It's a fun challenge, though. If you out here putting in that type of work, you're official.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad Ivan mentioned that, because my full workout that you should be doing every morning is actually on thesassin.com, or not thesassin.com, on patreon.com/the Saint in the Center for the members. It's my morning workout, involves abs, push-ups, arm exercises, all this stuff. And so you should definitely check that out and do it. And the most important thing about that is you don't require a gym or a bunch of equipment. It's easy to do. You can do it while you're traveling. You can get out of your bed and do it right there on the floor next to your bed. So definitely look into that one.
Braxton is back again. He said, how important is a website/landing page when starting a business? Currently in software sales, looking to build second income stream.
I don't think a website is critical to building a business, and it really does depend on which kind of business you're building. For example, if you're selling a product and it's on Amazon and you have your inventory with Amazon in their warehouse and it can be fulfilled through Amazon Prime, there's really no incentive to create a website because then you'd have to drive traffic to your website instead of just having the people purchase on Amazon. So you really want to think about your product and how appropriate a website would be.
Keen said, watch out for quackademics. In some of your roast, you talk about people who are not Black Americans. Are they barred from
Ah.
being positive influences?
No, absolutely not. In fact, when you look into history, you find that a lot of outsiders have been very influential in countries that are not their own. You look at Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of France. He was not born in France. He was born in the small island of Corsica. You look at Joseph Jugashvili Stalin. He was not born in Russia. He was born in the small country of Georgia. You look at Adolf Hitler. He was not born in Germany. He was born in Austria. So we find often that this is the case, that this has occurred in history. Not often, but this has been the case in many significant situations. And furthermore, DJ Academics is not made fun of because he's Jamaican. The Jamaicans have a beautiful history, and a lot of it is very much so closely related with African American and American history, as there have been a lot of Jamaicans and Caribbeans come to the States as well as Canada. But he's roasted because he's a fat idiot.
Okay, LaRosse agreed with you. He said real estate agents is probably the slowest and hardest.
And it's no disrespect to anyone, but it's just saying that I know a lot of people who go under that job title, and some things are just so worn down that you don't know what it means. And there's levels to things, right? Just like you hear a lot of people say they're entrepreneurs, but they're broke. So it's like, well, what does that really mean?
Hey, Alex said the Saint be grinding. Thanks for all you do. I got my hand sanitizer product in 2 stores and going on a
Wow.
third this week. Thanks for the consultation.
Wow. Wow. That is big. And I'm so happy for you. And I remember this product. The Saint is he's persistent and he followed through, and that makes me so proud. Anytime someone books a consultation at marquettism.com and I have the time to speak with them one-on-one for an hour, and we create a foundation for their business and hopefully their financial life, and then you hear a guy give an update like that, it's powerful. It really is. And it's neat when you're doing something that has meaning to people. That's cool. And he's getting in stores. I love when you can walk into a store and see this product and say, damn, I was a part of that.
Yeah.
I know the guy who makes this.
Hollywood Impressive said it's sad folks will still vote for Dementia Joe because of the student loan forgiveness and forget the damage he's done thus far.
I don't think they're about to forgive my boy, because these gas prices been slapping people in the head. And what's more is a lot of people have already defaulted on their student loan debt. They've paused their student loan debt. So for him to forgive it is not going to change their day-to-day life if they've not been paying it, or if they've paused it, or they're in forbearance, or all these other options. So what they have experienced of Joe Biden is like significant increases in gas prices. He's tried to lie and blame it on Ukraine and Putin, but gas prices were skyrocketing before that, if we're being honest and looking at the data. So I don't think that this is going to get him out of the dark.
Elias is back on PayPal. He's the one that asked about the fitness or real estate. He
Yes.
said if none of those options are good ideas, then what are some good industry niches to get into would bring me $1 million faster?
Well, number one, always focus on happiness and enjoying your life as you progress towards your goal. I really want to say that because I endured much pain and unhappiness in trying to achieve financial goals. And secondly, I think if we are opening our eyes and looking at things like the Forbes list, when you find people make those like big gains, they're in paper assets. We're talking about stock and things like this. Or you're seeing that people are in software, whether they're the creator of a software, or they've been able to utilize software to grow their wealth in other ways, whether it's like a big uptick using cryptocurrency, or creating a blockchain technology, or creating a technology that we use every day like Facebook, for example. So that's where you see the fast growth. And then of course media and entertainment, it's a little bit harder of a vertical to thrive in. But if you look at the guy who created Girls Gone Wild, he created this business, and within say 2 years they were already pulling in tens of millions. Usually you don't see that in a business But when you're in certain industries that are based on vices like porn, sex, drugs, things like this, you're going to get sales and you're going to get clients, i.e., addicts. So those are some of the businesses that are going to give you that fast growth.
None of the above said, how much running should one be doing every day/week in miles? Most of my running is from basketball during the weekend while I work out 6 times a week.
Okay, so number one, basketball players are not in top physical shape. And I say that because I used to play basketball very competitively, such that I actually ruptured my Achilles tendon, like ripped it in half. So I love basketball. I stopped playing, but I absolutely loved it. And I played a lot. And then when I transitioned from basketball to boxing and I did a boxing workout, I realized I actually was not in top physical shape. So that's number one. And then number two, in terms of running, I would say at the very least, you want to get at least 10 miles in a week. At the very least, that's on the low side, to be honest with you.
Okay, Dimitri said, peace to the saints. I hope all is well. How do I negotiate more effectively in general?
Oh, Dimitri, the session on negotiation was in conference 3, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And we already put that footage out.
Yeah.
Check out conference 3 footage. I personally did a session on the art of negotiation. That session will teach you how to negotiate.
Carry on.
Tuesday's verdict also reaffirms the FBI's use of informants. It's funny how the government is so dishonest that they rely on snitches. And generally, what is a snitch? A snitch is a person who has no integrity. They decided to do something that's illegal or immoral in some cases. And they don't even have the decency to protect the other people who took that risk with them. A snitch is someone who tells on their friends, tells on their family members, tells on the people who were supposed to be, doing something with them covertly. A snitch is a dishonest person, and the government is always relying on snitches. It's quite sad. Honestly, if I was running a government, I would never use the testimony of a snitch because number one, they're a snitch. They have no integrity. And then number two, you know that they are incentivized to lie. They're incentivized not only to lie, but they're also incentivized to say what the government wants them to say because the government is saying, hey, if you help me with this goal, I'm going to let you free. What won't people say to avoid jail? And Tambuzi, the booty bandit. Tambuzi, scary. Anyways, Tuesday's verdict reaffirms the FBI's use of informants, snitches, and undercover FBI agents who helped investigate Fox, age 39, and Croft, 46, as part of a group angered by Whitmer's early COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. I see. This is why we've not heard about this. So these were basically people fighting against the pandemic restrictions. And I think a lot of people would have respected it. And that's why this has been suppressed news. Wow. Now we see. Understood. Quote, getting these convictions and most important for the FBI, disrupting the plot has gone down as a win, according to a research fellow on extremism. Is it extreme that if someone is taking your freedom, which is what those restrictions did, that you should fight for your freedom? I do believe some of the framers of this country, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Patrick Henry, said, give me liberty or give me death. Liberty is freedom. The restrictions, to restrict, is obviously to control, which is to reduce freedom. Shout out to one of the Saints. Looks like he went to MDB label, got his drip up real quick.
Teddy that bought the briefcase and the running belt.
He about to be dripped out in a real way. In a real way.
He got the fanny pack. He got 2 fanny packs.
Oh, he got the fanny pack?
He got, it looks like maybe a red one and the with love one.
Yes, I got the with love one as well. It's on the way. Yeah, I like that one.
He got a lot, yeah. Ivan's back on PayPal. He said, I've been following the workout document on theassassin.com. I didn't even know about the morning routine. I'll have to check that out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. And excuse me. It says, during the retrial, prosecutors appeared to emphasize the kidnappers' conduct more than their words, particularly about actions involving surveillance of Whitmer's cottage in northern Michigan, said Barbara McQuaid. The idea of someone surveilling your home should send chills down everyone's spine, McQuaid wrote in an email to the Detroit News. Now, this is funny because Barbara McQuade is a U.S. attorney, which is to say she works for the government. Now, how weird is it that the government has claimed that it should send chills down your spine to know that someone's surveilling you? That's what the government does. They're surveilling all of us. In fact, this rotten government surveils us so much that when someone pointed it out, i.e., Kim Snowden, a former government employee and whistleblower who says, oh, by the way, they're monitoring things that they say they don't monitor. They're looking at your cell phone text messages. They're watching you every moment. The government's surveilling you. So how ironic is it that a government agent should say that it's weird when a citizen starts surveilling the government? That's weird. They look at you and observe you and record you. But when you look at them and observe them and put them under a microscope, now it's a bad thing. Now it's a crime. Oh, very curious. That's comical. That's a dark comedy right there. We're going to go on to the next one, but the summary of this one is basically these dudes were really with the shits, as they say. They basically said, hey, we ain't with all this loss of freedom that's going on during this scandemic, and we about to put an end to this. Turns out FBI was a step ahead of them. You dig? And furthermore, anytime your organization can be infiltrated, that lets you know that you ain't have things tight. You ain't have things tight enough. And that's why I'm always about, number one, loyalty, and number two, vetting. You know, we don't have an internet organization. We have an in-person organization. I know my guys are solid because, we go out and work out, once a week. I see these guys on a regular basis. I know their soul. And one thing I tell you, if the Fed sent somebody in to infiltrate the assassin, 9 out of 9, they might mess around and quit the Feds and join the assassin because we that real out here.
Jamal just got the running belt. It's the Jamal from the conference, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Noor said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
And it's Rayo said, overdue tuition. Incredibly informative hearing your thoughts on the news, Marquett. You're doing a great service for humanity. Peace to the saints.
Thank you. That means very much to me. We got another piece of news that I find to be very, very important. And it's curious that this piece of news has also been suppressed. You'll notice something consistent, which is that the things I'm talking about are pieces of news you should have heard of, things that should have been emphasized. But for some reason, the media is more fascinated with telling you about what celebrity just got a divorce, as though they don't get divorces left and right. I don't even know why they get married. It's strange. But here's the funny thing. The U.S. military carries out airstrikes in Eastern Syria, which is to say if our military, i.e. our Air Force in this case, is dropping bombs. It sounds so nice, airstrikes. It sounds like what's that word when you're like, it just doesn't, it doesn't sound bad, airstrikes. But when you say you're bombing people,
Sugarcoating?
What's that?
Sugarcoating?
Yeah, it's worse than sugarcoating. The word's not coming to me at the moment, but we carried out airstrikes. Sounds a lot better than we bombed men, women, and children in Syria. Sounds a lot better than dropping a bomb, explosives, deadly explosives. It sounds a lot better. But here's the funny thing about that. Have you guys noticed in America and around the world, we're obsessed with this Ukraine war? And it's funny that we're so obsessed with the Ukraine war when America is not an active participant in the Ukraine war. Oh, well, except bankrupting our country economically for Ukraine, who can do nothing for us. But the war that we actually are actively involved in, sending soldiers in, sending Air Force and dropping bombs and murdering, that war, the Syrian war, which we started, by the way, we don't get any news reporting on that war. And I find that to be really strange. And you might say, well, Marquette, tell me about that war. Well, that war started in 2015. That's a 7-year-old war. We're creeping up on a decade of conflict in Syria, a place where we were not invited, a place where we had no strategic interest, a place we have no business being in, but it is an active theater of war, which is to say murder, which is to say that we are creating terrorists, because there's no way in hell someone drops a bomb and destroys your home and your future and your school and your roads and kills your family members and you don't feel some kind of way about it. That's how terrorists are created, if you were wondering. They don't come out of thin air because they hate American freedom. I mean, after all, there's not much American freedom left nowadays anyways. Now,
Euphemism is the word that you're thinking of.
pardon?
Euphemism.
No, I thought of that one. It was, the word was sterile.
Got it. Multiple people said euphemism.
Yeah, no, it would seem like I was thinking of euphemism, but I was thinking of the word sterile. When you say airstrikes, it sounds so sterile and removed. But the dirty word, the dirty reality is that they're dropping deadly explosives on men, women, and children who are not enemy combatants.
Dontaria said, very happy that this segment is returning. Tuition, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Mr. BM Bryant said, paying my tuition because as a man, I don't believe in a free lunch.
Yeah.
I am preparing to book a consultation. Are you open to brainstorming during our session on a viable product that I can bring to market? Peace to the saints.
Absolutely. And, almost any product can be viable. Isn't it funny? I mean, consider the fact that people are able to successfully sell cigarettes. When I was in Europe, I found one thing extremely entertaining. The government does something good, which you almost never hear me say that. They put photographs on the cigarette packages of things that are completely vile. Someone with a hole in their neck, or, a dead fetus, or, destroyed lungs, to show you that these are carcinogens that cause cancer. These are toxic things that will destroy you. And people still pick up the cigarettes and smoke them anyways. It's funny. In fact, children in Europe smoke cigarettes. I remember there's a 15-year-old girl who actually tried to holler at me. She was smoking a cigarette. It was 4 a.m. And then eventually I was like, how old are you? And she's like 15. And I was perplexed. I was like, number one, you're smoking cigarettes. Number two, it's 4 a.m. Like, where are your parents at? Like, what is going on in this country? Crazy.
Dallas came in via Cash App. He said, tuition, thank you for the knowledge. Peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Jamal said, forgot we had a running belt as I run with my phone in my hand.
He doing it the old-fashioned way, huh?
Yep. He's gonna be good now.
Yeah, now he can be balanced. Now he can be balanced. And if somebody act crazy, he can throw hands effectively without dropping his phone.
Rob said, big homie, just dropping some tuition to show my appreciation for the topic and the value of this knowledge.
I appreciate you. And shout out to Rob. He comes through on a very consistent basis. He's a real one, true supporter.
The dude 343 said, I heard Biden signed for one world currency. Will it happen? If so, what do you do to overcome it?
That will never happen. After all, the British wouldn't even stay within the Eurozone. And the British, they have the pound, which is fabulously strong right now. We see that the euro has taken a backseat to the dollar, which has not occurred in a very long time. And so we'll never see a single world currency. And if we ever were to see a single world currency, it wouldn't be something that would be created by the United States, because we're no longer clever enough to make moves like that. It'd probably be something that would be created by more strategic societies like the Chinese. So this is a pure fantasy.
Carry on.
About these airstrikes. The U.S. military said earlier, now, it's funny. I'm looking at this website and it keeps freezing. The one that's telling me about this. I find this to be very strange. None of the other websites are giving me any issues. The U.S. military said early Wednesday it carried out airstrikes in Eastern Syria that targeted areas used by militias backed by Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard. There was no immediate acknowledgement by Syria's state-run media of the airstrikes hitting, they named this city that I'm not going to try to pronounce. Iran as well did not acknowledge the attack. The U.S.'s military central command said that the strikes took proportionate, deliberate action intended to limit the risk of escalation and minimize the risk of casualties. Let me tell you how bad our government lies. Let me break down this BS that they just said. And you should be mad because I'm mad. I hate when people lie to you as though you're an imbecile. Now, granted, there are a lot of imbeciles. They mostly follow Pitiful the P, Criminal the P. But our audience is far more intelligent than that. Let me tell you how this doesn't make sense. So this is an American military official explaining why they did the airstrike, which is why they bombed men, women, and children in Syria, in a country we have no business being in. They state the following. Check this out. Quote, we took proportionate, deliberate action. Well, first off, if you're taking action, of course it's deliberate. I mean, you fool. You're just being too wordy. Intended to limit the risk of escalation. So you're telling me that by bombing this country, you're reducing escalation? No, my friend. When you bomb a country, they generally want to fight back, even if they don't have a chance of winning. Consider Ukraine. Russia is stronger, has more money, has better leadership, and has more military experience. When they went into Ukraine fighting them, the Ukrainians, even though they have no chance of winning, they fought back. So when you attack someone, that does not limit the chance of escalation. Only if you obliterate them does it limit the chance of escalation. And this was not obliteration. You would require war crimes or nuclear power to obliterate them. So that's a lie. You're not reducing the risk of escalation. Further, the liar states, to minimize the risk of casualties. What? So by the way, what does casualty mean? Again, these are euphemisms. What casualty means? Death. So he's saying we dropped a bomb, which is something that creates death. So we created death so that we could minimize the risk of death? What? He just said, I killed people to stop people from killing people. I'm done. I mean, they got to think that we're totally stupid. This came from USA Today, this article. I mean, this is laughable. My Lord. Oh, my Lord.
Teddy that just bought the stuff on MDB label and the briefcase and the running belt also just became a Patreon member for a year. He bought his membership for the full year. So he's prosperous today.
He is prosperous. And he's also smart because the price increases. So he's locked in his rate.
Yeah.
And that's very intelligent. I always tell men to think long term.
And Ivan's getting ready to get his workout on because he got the running belt as well.
Ivan gets that work in. You know, there are a couple Saints that I know get that work in. The Saints in Italy get the work in a real way. And shout out to Kevin. He just got 100% on his physical fitness test in the military. So we know that, you know, he's going hard, and it shows.
Haven said peace to the Saints.
Peace to the Saints.
And Teddy Fresh said peace to the Saints, just showing my appreciation.
Absolutely. Now check this out. Now, as I said, this website keeps on like freezing for some reason. I find it to be strange. It keeps trying to close right now. It keeps saying page unresponsive. This is true comedy. It's suspicious as hell. Okay. Quote, today's strikes were necessary to protect and defend U.S. personnel, states Central Command spokesman Colonel Joe Buccino. Now, this is funny because you're telling me that you've attacked the country of Syria to protect U.S. personnel. Well, that would make us say, well, where are these U.S. personnel members? They're in Syria. Well, maybe they're not supposed to be there. Maybe they're not welcome there. Does the government of Syria permit them to be there? No, they don't permit them to be there. So you're a foreign occupying force. You're an invader, perhaps even an imperialist. And so the fact that you've gone there illegally against the will of the Syrian government, you're an invading force. And now you're saying you have the right to protect your personnel there, even though you're not welcome there. I mean, this just makes no sense. It's like basically someone goes into your house and pulls out a gun on you in your house and says, hey, man, I'm just using this gun to protect myself while I'm here. Oh, okay, bro, that's crazy, because I as the homeowner was going to pull out a gun on you because you've invaded my house. I'm not pulling out a gun on you because I'm aggressive. I'm just defending my home, which you shouldn't be in because I didn't allow you in. You broke your way in. Ooh, this government is wicked. And if you ever wonder, like, why don't we have certain things that we could have, like, I don't know, free healthcare? I'm not promoting free healthcare. Personally, I don't support that concept, but we could easily have free healthcare if we weren't spending up all the money bombing innocent Arabs in Syria. We'd have plenty of money to spare. Think about that.
Dimitri said, what would you have done if you were the president of Ukraine dealing with Russia?
Well, first off, if I were the president of Ukraine, I want to warn you that you have to understand that victory is to he who is superior in pre-engagement calculation. That is from the Master Sun Tzu, which is to say that You have to engage in war of the mind before the war of the physical world occurs. Knowing that I'm in Ukraine, I would ask myself, what is my geopolitical position here? And what is the geopolitical strategy that I have to execute? So I would have first said, am I aligned with Russia or am I aligned with the West? The West being the EU and the United States. My people in my territory, are they more Slavic or Eastern, or are they more Western European by language, by culture, by blood? Well, the truth is the Ukrainians are more Eastern by blood, language, and all those other things. In fact, there are Russian speaking territories within Ukraine. So realistically, it probably make most sense to be more aligned with Russia. So what I would say is, what is my number one goal, which is to have sovereignty over my country. If I want sovereignty, I would have connected with the Russian government early to see what levels of sovereignty they were going to allow me to have as the head of this nation. And if I wasn't satisfied with the opportunity there, then I would have made a very strong bid to become a part of the EU or NATO so that I could get protection and exercise some level of sovereignty beyond what the Russians would have allowed. But let us be clear, the United States doesn't give protection for free for the most part. They usually want some level of control, whether they're controlling your economics, your in certain policies, etc. But undoubtedly, I think the West would have given more freedom and more sovereignty than the Russians would have.
Kevin said, don't get yourself put on the watch list.
I've probably already been on it since I tested gifted and talented as a kid, to be honest with you.
Joseph said, thanks for covering these topics.
It is truly a pleasure.
And Mo said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Carry on.
Going on to our next piece of news. And, this one I find to be strange because this piece of news never made it to Google trending. So I know that Google trending is lying. The banning of Andrew Tate from the major social networks never made it to Google trending. So I know that they are for sure lying because he was one of the most famous individuals online. But here's a strange thing is that it is a bit of a farce because I still see a ton of videos with Andrew Tate's voice and his image on all of the social media platforms. So this is not quite true now, is it? If someone can help me understand, do explain, but he's still on all the networks. One thing I did hear of recently, and feel free to verify this because this was heard, I did not read this, but I heard that his payment processor has banned him so that he's not able to process payments for the various things that he sells. Now, if that's the case, I think that's a very dangerous precedent because payment processors like PayPal or Stripe or Visa, they process payments for all kinds of egregious things like pornography, for example. And for them to ban someone merely for sharing their worldview shows that we're in a dark time, but it also underlines the value of things like cryptocurrency and being able to engage in peer-to-peer payments. And so that reminds me that we also need to make sure that we get back at SAS and Coin and get that committee organized so that we have that safety net, shall we say.
Johnny said, would it be feasible to continue a path in music production? I have acquired several placements that have resulted in royalties paid out quarterly, and that doesn't include local beat sales.
He says, should he continue?
Yeah.
If you're seeing success, carry on. All we ever try to do as business people is when we find something to be working, we just increase the profitability, we increase the size of the market we're accessing. That's all we're doing, right? If you can sell one candy bar and then you're able to sell 3 candy bars, then you should just be asking, well, how do I sell 10,000 of these a month? That's all you're doing is scaling. So yes, carry on. And I wish you well in that.
Carry on.
Here's a very interesting piece of news. And this is propaganda. This came out by Newsweek. And the title of this propaganda is, Did Kristi Noem Abuse Her Power in South Dakota? We know that this is propaganda because, number one, It doesn't even call her by her official title, which is governor. It's a title of respect. It is a title of honor and esteem. It just calls her Christy Noam as though she's a random broad. So that's disrespectful. It lets us know the leanings of Newsweek. Secondly, it says, did she abuse her power? Well, this immediately puts the question of, what kind of impropriety has she engaged in? She's done something wrong. Then you read the article. It doesn't say anything meaningful. It's a very short article. And all it's really there to do is for you to start questioning her legitimacy. And then once you do a little bit of background research, which most people will never do, I do it because I'm a bit more pedantic and detail oriented than most folks. And I figured out, oh, well, Christy Noam is a governor. Okay. And one of the things she did was she banned trans athletes, like basically Joanna Man, like a grown dude, from saying, hey, I'm going to be a female or a woman MMA fighter. I'm going to be a collegiate athlete as a male in women's swimming, which looks disgusting. So she basically banned these guys from doing things like that. And that's why she's under attack from the left. And they're basically mudslinging. And this is indeed the nature of politics, to create a lie and then repeat it enough times that it starts to impact people's memory and beliefs. That is the era that we live in. Next piece of news. This one is.
Before you carry on, your fat said, if you're somebody who is proficient at high ticket sales, is there any way to parlay that into a 7-figure income?
7-figure? Not if you're not selling for yourself, it'd be very hard. 6-figure, no problem. If you're proficient at high ticket sales, as you say, which generally is B2B sales, then if I were you, I would find a good product and I would sell it for myself. And then you're going to be pulling in the lion's share of the profit from that deal. But I highly doubt you'll ever make 7 figures. And I say that to all of you. You'll probably never make 7 figures working for someone else unless you got into a startup or you got into a young company and you're like the number 1 through 15 person. You're the first person or up to the 15th person. Yeah, you'll crack $1 million.
Carry on.
Former boxing champ George Foreman accused of sexual abuse by daughters of his former associates, lawsuit shows. Now, I'm already suspicious of this one because it's a lawsuit, which means we're trying to get money. You see, if someone has sexually abused you, don't you want them in jail so they don't sexually abuse anyone else? That's what, like, for example, if I was scared of somebody, I'd want them locked up so that I don't continue feeling scared and no one else has to feel threatened. But when you start going at his pockets, I'm immediately suspicious of you. And this has been a major strategy of the broke female today to acquire wealth and attention, which is a major form of wealth in the mind of women who were not raised right. 2 women have accused former heavyweight boxing champion George Foreman of sexually abusing them when they were minors in last year. Nope. The year before that. Nope. The 1970s. What? These chicks are senior citizens now, and they're saying that he did this in the 1970s. Now, is there any evidence that could possibly be presented from the 1970s? No, not at all. And it's just ludicrous that our legal system would even hear such a case. One of the women is described as the daughter of an advisor and manager, while the second woman is the daughter of a boxer who trained him. They're seeking a jury trial and damages against Foreman and anyone who may also be responsible for the alleged abuses. So they're trying to get money. Yeah, I mean, this is pathetic. Quote, over the past 6 months, 2 women have been trying to extort millions of dollars from me and my family. They are falsely claiming that I sexually abused them over 45 years ago, half a century. I adamantly and categorically deny these allegations, he said. Shout out to George Foreman for not rolling over and taking it up the butt on this one. I would have respected it more if he'd have just been more concise and been like, fuck these bitches. That's how I feel. What? Oh, that was too much. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes. No cursing. Let us be saintly. Quote, the pride I take in reputation means as much to me as my sports accomplishments, and I will not be intimidated by baseless threats and lies. I am, and always will be, guided by my faith and trust in God. I will work with my lawyers to fully and truthfully expose my accuser's scheme and defend myself in court. I don't pick fights, but I don't run away from them either. End quote. I believe that coming from George Foreman, you dig? The funny thing about it is now he has to waste money defending himself against attacks that are meaningless. One thing I can guarantee you of is that, the liars and harlots will come forward to destroy any one of us, especially those of us who represent morality and have any measure of power. So just a heads up. I might as well hashtag me too myself before somebody else do it, right? Should I do a video called hashtag me too, the saint in the center abused me?
Okay. Kevin's back on Cash App. He said, would you ever sit down and chop it up with Tate?
Yeah, for sure. Tell them to come through.
We have Benjamin said, how can you find a product to sell and sell business to business? I want to start my own sales business.
This is the gentleman who says he's good at selling high ticket.
No, this is someone else. And then that gentleman
Okay.
followed up and said, I actually was about to ask that. So a couple people want to know that.
I highly recommend against B2B. And I've said this many times. And in short, this was something that I was discouraged from when I was, starting my third tech company. I was talking with Math Ventures, which is an investment firm in Chicago. And they were telling me, we don't invest in B2B companies for these reasons, but we'll hear you out because you have a strong introduction from someone we respect. They didn't end up investing. And I was able to make this B2B company successful, but it took blood, sweat, and pain. So I always recommend against B2B because they have a long sales cycle, number one. Number two, you generally require a lot of connections and pre-existing relationships, which young people or people who are new to business don't have. B2B is very tough. It's something you want to do when you are already financially stable, you have advanced relationships, you have government relations experience. I recommend against it. If you have a particular idea and you want to figure out what the path is, I'm happy to go through it with you in a consultation. I've made a career in B2B, not only as an entrepreneur, but also I was an employee doing big ticket sales as a business development person. I'm not talking about in a state. I'm talking about managing whole territories, like the Northwest and the West Coast of America, doing deals with PayPal, doing deals with Burger King, doing deals with bank presidents, big deals. But I don't recommend it.
Okay, carry on.
Another piece of news, I think I just highlighted this one because I found it to be funny. It's funny, but it's not funny. 2 dead, multiple injured in a shooting at Kentucky homeless shelter. I'm like, God damn, bro. They're like, why you so stressed out, man? You ain't got no job. You ain't got to be nowhere, man. You might as well just lay up all day and holler at them homeless hoes. The lady hobos. See what they talking about. Why y'all shooting people? More importantly, how did you get a gun? Was it a free gun? I mean, come on, what's going on here? 2 people have been killed and multiple others injured at a shooting at a Kentucky homeless shelter. I know that when the shooting started happening, I know like somebody was there like, man, I don't need this shit. I'm trying to get a house, man. You ain't here shooting people. Like they're probably just so like annoyed with it. They ain't even run and hide. They're like, look, if you get me, you get me. God damn it. Low key might have been a benefit though. If you get shot, you at least get to go to the hospital, and that's room and board right there. Food, room and board in a real way, ain't it? Yeah. Anyways, 2 people have been killed and multiple others injured in a shooting at a Kentucky homeless shelter for men Thursday night. The Henderson Police Department responded to an active shooter incident at the Harbor House Christian Center. Oh, not in the house of the Lord. Kenneth B. Gibbs of Henderson has been identified as the suspect and was taken into custody. That's pretty much all they have to say about that. Okay. Well, I feel like that's not even news. There's no real information or insight. That's a pity. Next piece of information, of news, and this one is sad. And if this was done by a guy, the society would be in outrage and you would have already heard of this piece of news. The title from ABC News is Girlfriend Kills Boyfriend by Mowing Him Down with Her Car, police say. Now, I think there's a couple curious things about this. Number one, linguistically, the word kill is a lot lighter than the word murder. So it doesn't say girlfriend murdered him. It says she kills him, which is a little bit lighter. Secondly, by mowing him down, like, God, man, that sounds so vicious. It's like they have no sympathy for this guy. Neither did she. Now, here's the other thing. One thing we're not about to see dramatized. Anytime somebody gets shot, it's like, no, we need to ban guns. Somebody died from a gun. We need to ban guns. Well, this guy died from a car. Are we about to ban cars? No, we're not, because the car, like the gun, is merely an instrument or a tool. What we need to ban is crazy people. We need a final solution for them. And this girl crazy. If she just show up and she see you walking down the street and she's like, and she start playing bumper cars with your head, it's all bad. She's a nut. We need to take care of her because ain't no healing her. Quote, a woman has been arrested and charged with the death of her boyfriend after police say she deliberately mowed him down in a car. The incident occurred Saturday when Prince George's County, now this is a very well-to-do county outside of Washington, D.C. Police arrived and found the victim, later named as 40-year-old Shamato Clark. My nigga named Shamato? Huh. Is he like Japanese or like Shamato? Huh, that's curious. Anyways, I got to show you the picture of this girl because I had sympathy for him initially. And now that I'm looking at the picture of this girl, she looks so crazy. I think he should have known this was going to happen. She looks that crazy. Oh my good. And what's up with her lip right here? Like that lip area, like that, like chunky part of the lip is like, is that swelling or what's going on? And can someone get her some chapstick and a hairbrush? Why does her face just look like bleached out? Oh, I don't even believe in makeup, but she's making me believe in it right now. Like she's making me believe in makeup. This is all bad. But anyways, she looks like a nut. So my boy, gentlemen out there, saints, if you have a girlfriend and she looks like this, she crazy. You heard me? And she might kill you on purpose. So I just want to show her photo in case you looking at your old lady and she looked like this, or she making this face, or her lips is like bunched up like this. Run. Call the police. I give you permission to snitch. This is the only time snitching is okay with me. Now, back to this article. I'm trying to figure out why she did this crazy thing.
Okay, while you're looking for that, Muhammad sent 51 Canadian dollars.
Baller alert.
He said, I really appreciate these sessions more than the beefing, roasts, and streams, but hey, they can be funny. LOL. I'm selling SaaS B2B. Average deal size is 85K. I agree with what you said about B2B space. It's not for everyone.
It's not. It's a tough space.
Okay, Derek said, glad you decided to keep making this type of content. I hope the viewers can show the support this content deserves. Peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints. It'd be really cool if we can actually get this syndicated. You know, we can make this as big as ABC News, because I think people would actually start to enjoy the news. And I remember when I was a teacher, a lot of my students told me, they said, hey, you know, I never liked history until you started teaching it. And I thought it was a pity, because history is the most important story that any of us should hear. You know, it is the reason that we are in the present as we are. You know, it's the reason. Anyways.
Okay, Elias is back again. He's the one asking about the business questions.
All right.
He said, I see you promoting B2C and product-based business. I know you already shot down getting into the fitness industry, but do you think getting into a fitness product business would be a wise idea, or is that market too saturated as well and will not bring me $1 million that fast?
It's a saturated market. However, if you have a unique offering, then you can play ball. Like, one thing I would recommend to you is, like, if you have a great technology or something that's going to help men exercise their calves, for example, I think you'd be really successful. We often see memes of, you know, a guy who's really buff, and then you look at his legs and they look like toothpicks, and people say, oh, he missed leg day. Well, there's not a lot of great technologies for doing leg day, like calves, for example. So if you had a great workout equipment for that, I think you can probably make a couple bucks on it. Okay, so police found the victim, 40-year-old Shamato Clark. It's like his first name is Japanese, his last name is English. deceased at the scene after allegedly being purposely run over by his girlfriend, age 38. The preliminary investigation suggests Bruno intentionally struck the victim with her car, causing fatal injuries. I'd be curious as to like what she was driving, like what kind of car he got hit by. Just curious. Maybe it was probably an electric car. He didn't hear it coming. You feel me? Electric cars be silent.
Oh.
Yeah, he just walking down the street drinking a cappuccino and then bam.
While you're telling your jokes, Heels then came in by a cash out.
Shout out to Heels. These are legitimate questions. I'm a news anchor right now. These are legitimate questions.
Not the nicest vehicle.
It was a beat up. Yeah, it was a real beater. Police did not disclose a possible motive. Oh, come on. That's the only reason we read in the goddamn article, to see how crazy this broad is and why she did it. Lord, that was highly disappointing. Second piece of news, or whatever number of piece of news, it doesn't matter. But here's the next piece. This one annoys me because I see that we are devolving as a civilization. There's a piece of news about a bald eagle. Yes, that's right, Saints. A bald eagle was seen traveling through a North Carolina airport. No, it didn't just happen to fly into the airport. Yes, there was an imbecile who has a bald eagle. Yes, a wild animal, and they were taking it through an airport, which means that every other person in the airport is now subject to having to deal with a wild animal in the airport. And I also am annoyed when people bring their dogs to restaurants and they bring their dogs to indoor locations as though A, people don't have allergies to pet dander, B, dogs don't shed their hair, and C, they don't smell funny and create noise. This is a clear indication that society is in like tremendous decline when we have like there's no rules anymore, not even the good rules. And also when you are so dim-witted and unable to make meaningful relationships with others that you need to make a meaningful relationship with a wild animal that can't communicate with you, yet you pretend as though it understands what you're saying. This is strange. So yes, there was a bald eagle that went through the North Carolina airport, and apparently it didn't have any goddamn problems getting through, which kind of annoys me because when I was at the London airport, they were harassing the hell out of me at Heathrow, took my lotion and talked greasy to me. I mean, I was damn near ready to throw hands. I had to fly private after that because it was just like, I don't want to be treated like that. Next piece of news.
Kevin sent another cash app. He said toe raises on stairs for calves.
Right, exactly. That's the whole point, is that either the exercises don't involve any equipment, they're not rigorous enough, like the toe raises. That's one exercise, but what you really want is muscle confusion. So you always want to do like a variety, like at least 3 different exercises on the same muscle group to tear up that muscle. And I'd be impressed if you can name me 3 calf exercises that you can do. And also when you do the toe raises, often most people are not getting full range of motion. And then in some cases, if you're reasonably in shape, you don't have enough weight on the toe raises to get that muscular tearing. Takes too long is what I'm saying. Too many reps and too much time.
Jesus said those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Winston Churchill.
There you go. And the funny thing is that, people are sometimes aware of history and still repeat it, not only, as civilizations, but also as individuals. And that's why if you are in a relationship with a young lady and she does something foolish, it's okay to not let her forget so that we do not repeat those errors, because life is to be enjoyed. And if we're repeating errors, we are not enjoying life. We are suffering together, and that's not the way. Next piece of news, and this one kills me. And usually I try to be cool with the Pope because the Pope got some super player outfits. You feel me? But the Pope is just getting out of line. I mean, number one, the Pope is changing Catholicism. You heard me? He's being like all modern. The Pope is woke now. The Pope is LGBTQ now. I mean, this is just getting crazy. And the Pope is also politicized, which he shouldn't be. The Pope said, I kid you not, that Russia's war is repugnant. Now, it's funny, Pope, because you didn't mention the war in Syria, which is also very repugnant and unprovoked. Huh? And Moscow actually has a claim. There are Russians within Ukraine. But at the end of the day, it's not our business, and the damn show ain't your business, Pope. Aren't you a religious figure, my guy? Why are you talking about politics? This man is tripping. The Vatican has excuse me, the Vatican has defended Pope Francis's allegations on Russia. Now let's see what else. He has called Russia's war senseless, repugnant, and sacrilegious. Sacrilegious? Boy, if you don't get up out of here with that nonsense. Francis had referred to a national Russian TV commentator who was killed by a car bomb in Moscow as a poor girl. Wow. The Pope is kind of ruthless out here. It's funny how he's ruthless when he's talking about Russia, but he's not ruthless when he's talking about how half of his clergy is gay, right? Like he'd be like leaving that part out. Like, I don't know why y'all be going in the confession box. You heard me? The confession box is like basically akin to going into the shower in prison and dropping your soap. You already know it's all bad. You be seeing the confession box rocking back and forth. Like, man, what the hell is going on in there? I wonder, do parents be like outside waiting for him, and your little boy in the confession box rocking, you looking at your wife like, honey, like, should we check on him? She's like, no.
I use the kids that like work during the service.
Oh, you use
the
the
confession, like, yeah, it's the kids that.
That's when they get them.
Yeah. They're there before and after the service.
Are you Catholic? You grew up
Yeah.
Catholic?
Grew up Catholic, yeah.
Y'all Catholics are fake as hell. Don't none of y'all go to mass. I'm done with you. How I ain't even know she was Catholic. This is terrible. Francis was speaking about the slaying of Darya Dugina, the daughter of right-wing Russian political theorist. Oh, that's deep. Alexander Dugin, who fiercely backs the war. Russia has accused Ukrainian intelligence in the bombing, which Ukraine denies. Well, that makes perfect sense. Generally speaking, when you kill someone, you're going to deny it for sure, especially if you're an intelligence service, i.e. a covert operator. That makes perfect sense. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did do it. In his remarks, Francis also said orphans in Ukraine and Russia were among the innocents who have been victimized by the insanity of war. Well, wouldn't that be true of every war? So why is it, Pope, that you never point out the wars that America has started, which have been plentiful and never has anything to do with like proper ends? Like, Russia has a legitimate claim. There are Russian speakers and people who have Russian culture and Russian heritage within the Ukrainian border. So if they're saying we want to reunite or take this territory to protect our people, even if they're lying, it can almost sound true and reasonable. But conversely, America's bombing places like Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan. We don't have any logical reason or moral reason to be there other than stealing shit and just dominating everybody, right? But the Pope's been quiet on that. This boy a fraud.
I was reading a Cash App. Kevin said the current Pope is an atheist.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I just pulled it up. It says that he said it's better to be an atheist than a hypocritical Catholic.
What?
That's what he said.
What? That's what the Pope said?
There's articles, multiple articles from 2017 saying he said that, yes.
This Pope is a nut. Boy, he about to destroy the church. The churches are already down bad. That's why we need this ism. You heard me? And we need to take this ism seriously.
Hollywood Impressive sent a Cash App. He said confessing to booty grabbers.
Right? It's crazy out here. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba summoned the Vatican ambassador to Kiev last week and told reporters that the Ukrainian heart is torn apart by the Pope's words. In a statement, the Vatican appeared intent Tuesday on doing damage control. Well, tell the Pope to shut the F up if he ain't talking about Catholicism. That's his job. And truth be told, last I checked, I don't remember reading in any Bible where there was supposed to be an elected or selected single individual who is the arbiter of religion or how to be religious. I'm pretty sure that's a false creation. The Pope's been scammers for years. And yeah, I said it. And I mean it. Next piece of news. Oh, this one is the worst. And this one just lets you know America is in decay and decline, and we need a revolution in a real way. And I don't say that lightly. When you're in the most developed world, in the most developed country in the world, major air quotes on developed, we should never be in a situation where you cannot turn on your tap and drink the tap water. That should never be us. That's the story we used to have about the third world. That's the story we used to tell about sub-Saharan Africa. And now that has become the story that has been true in Flint, Michigan, and also in Jackson, Mississippi. The news headline is Flooding Exacerbates Water Treatment Plant Crisis in Jackson, Mississippi. And this is the thing that pisses me off. How is it we can spend millions on murder? Yes, the taxes they steal from you spent on murder abroad in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in countless places I'm not going to take time to name. We can send our sons and daughters around the world to commit unprovoked murder, yet we, for some reason, can't clean the water in Flint, Michigan. We don't have the money to clean the water in Jackson, Mississippi. It's too expensive, even though a single bomb costs millions of dollars. Make that make sense. Oh, I forgot it doesn't make sense. In Jackson, Mississippi, Mississippi's capital, emergency official. Oh, and just side note, if you didn't know, Mississippi is generally the poorest state in the union. In Mississippi's capital, emergency officials are going to distribute bottled water to residents. Oh, thank you. Are the environmentalists saying, hey, we need to fix the water treatment plant because the bottles are killing the environment? No, the environmentalists are liars and imbeciles. If there were any real bona fide environmentalists, this whole COVID thing wouldn't have gone so far, because after all those disposable masks, come on, where are they? They're in the ocean. Huh? They're on the ground. They're in the landfills. In Mississippi's capital, emergency officials are going to distribute bottled water to residents. A local university is using temporary restrooms for students, and people who do have water are boiling it to wash dishes. Oh my goodness. You got to boil water to wash dishes? Goodness, Lord. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves late Monday said he's declaring a state of emergency. Oh, now you're declaring it? You dumbass. After excessive rainfall worsened problems in one of Jackson's already troubled water treatment plants. The problems are causing low water pressure through much of the city, 150,000 people located in central Mississippi. This is a real crisis. The low pressure raised concerns about firefighting and people's ability to take showers or flush toilets. Oh no, not the sewage issue too. Oh, this is getting bad over there. Reeves said that the Mississippi Emergency Management Act will start distributing both drinking water and non-potable water. What is non-potable?
I'm guessing just water you can like bathe with.
Potable, safe to drink, drinkable. Okay. Curious.
Non-potable water is water that is not of drinking quality, but maybe still used for other purposes. So probably
showering
like
and
washing,
things like that. Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness. The problem with the water treatment plant I mean, I'm just so I can't even read this. I'm kind of steaming inside that people can't flush toilets and shower.
While you're thinking about that and steaming, McIndoll said, peace to the saints. What you're saying about Catholicism is so true. So much hypocrisy for real. And me as a Haitian grew up Catholic and was forced in, but my heart was never into it. Out now. God bless, brother.
In a real way, praise the Lord. Hallelujah. I'm glad you've been saved from the fake Lord and the Pope. He got some crazy outfits though. I ain't gonna hate on the Pope drip game. His drip game is out of this world.
Got a nice city. It's our country too.
And it's been that way for hundreds of years or for decades apparently. But here's the funny thing about the Pope, right? And Vatican City, which you referenced. A little bit of history for you. Vatican City was granted to the Catholic Church by none other than the fascist. Yes, that is the fascist regime of Benito Mussolini granted them that. And if you want to know how dirty the Catholic Church is, aside from sodomizing children within a religion that says that is something you should die for, they actually have had something called the Reich Concordat. They also had a concordat with the fascists in Italy, but the Reich Concordat was an agreement between, yes, you guessed it, Nazi Germany, Hitler, and the Catholic Church, which is to say, historically, they always seem to be in bed with the wrong person. Very sick, dirty, filthy characters.
Hey, Alex said, peace to the saints. Is it wise to use loans for a new business?
It is completely unwise. I recommend against that with all my heart.
Kevin is back. He said, but we can send billions overseas to Israel.
Uh-oh. Hey, don't get this stream shut down telling that much truth. Ain't that wild? Yeah. And in fact, the billions that we send to Israel, not only does it allow them to have a surplus in their economy while we have a deficit, but it also further exacerbates terrorism. In fact, when you listen to the words of one guy whom I'm not going to name because I'll probably get this flagged, but let me see, his name rhymes with Obama. That guy who was hunted down by Obama and murdered without a trial. Now, the reason they didn't take him to trial is because he might have told some truths that would have, woken up some Americans. But that guy, he was one of the many folks that they call terrorists who said the simple thing of, hey guys, we ask you two things. Number one, leave the Holy Land, which is Saudi Arabia. We don't want your troops here. This is a holy land. We don't want you here with your guns. Fair enough. Secondly, you're funding Israel, which is committing atrocities in this region. Oh, and side note, Israel has not respected any of the international agreements from the UN, from the League of Nations on not expanding and taking over the land of Arabs. So, you're financing them to continue doing evil. And there's a lot of facts in that. And I'm not Arab and I'm not Muslim. You heard me? I'm just following this ism. So we're financing them to do that, which means that we're creating ill will in the Arab world. And these are the guys who are engaging in jihad against America for understandable reasons. And guess what benefit we get from giving billions of dollars to Israel? Nothing, because they're not big enough and strong enough to protect us against anybody. So it's just really a waste. And so you'd ask yourself, well, how is it that the American taxpayer, for some reason, wants to give their tax dollars to Israel? Well, that's a great riddle, isn't it? I think part of it is, number one, there's an Israeli lobby, which means that there are a lot of, I'm not getting into this. I'm not getting into this. Carrying on. Back to the news at hand. The problems at the water treatment plant came after the city appeared to largely avoid widespread flooding from the Pearl River, swollen by days of heavy rain. Ah, I see. It says the city avoided acknowledging this flooding. Okay. One home was flooded by Monday, but Jackson Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba, wow, that's quite a name right there. That sounds like it's like Native American and African at the same time, doesn't it? That's deep. Said that the water did not rise as high as expected. Okay, so basically he denied obvious realities. Okay. Jackson has two water treatment plants, and the larger one is near the reservoir that provides most of the city's water supply. The reservoir also has a role in flood control. So essentially, we're dealing with the age-old situation of there were clearly opportunities for you to prevent this, but the government was sleeping on the job and did not provide for the most critical essential thing needed for human life, which is water. That's disgusting. And if these people ended up not waking up tomorrow, I'd be very comfortable with that, because they made themselves be responsible for the death of citizens not having access to clean drinking water in America. Outrageous.
Kevin is back on Cash App. He said that person that you just discussed is still alive somewhere in Dallas.
Does he know who I was talking about?
Yeah.
You think they in Texas just chilling, just big chilling? That's crazy. That's funny. If that was true, and this boy was just hanging out with Tupac in Dallas, that'd be hilarious.
He rhymes with, like, he knows. Yeah.
Okay, that's wild.
Mackendall is back and said, I was an altar server. That's what I was talking about.
Oh,
yeah. I was an altar server and seen some fruity priests. My family wanted me to be a priest, and I said, I love women, can't do it. Peace to the saints.
Oh. He said, I love the shorties too much. It can't be done. I hear you. Next piece of news. This one is about the social media tech giants saying that they're going to fight falsehoods in social media for the upcoming election, which basically means that they're going to be requiring that you abide by their rules, i.e. not say certain things like the truth in some cases, because they're going to fact check you. Is it really the job of Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube to fact check anyone? What they've gotten beyond is their basic premise as a business, which is to provide a platform, not to be the arbiter of truth. And that lets you know that we have these power holders who are not elected, who have disproportionate influence over world affairs. If you think that the president of the United States has as much information or as much power as the CEO of Facebook, you would be largely misinformed. And this is kind of the sad thing, because when Facebook has so much data on you, they can predict your behavior and they understand your psychology at a very high level. They have as much information as any intelligence service would ever seek to have on an individual. And surely we need to get these folks under control, because they are absolutely out of control. It's funny how they mention Alex Jones as one of the persons who gives misinformation. Like he's like the poster child of the bad side of the internet, which does not balance with their, you know, suggestion that you're a smart person, right? Because if they thought you were smart, then they would say, okay, well, we have good public schools in America. The American populace is educated. They should be able to assess if Alex Jones or whoever else is speaking is saying things that are reasonable or ludicrous. And so instead of addressing the root of the issue, which is the actual lack of education in the American populace and the low quality of the public schools, they lie to you and say, hey, we think that you guys are plenty smart and you guys are good, but we still need to protect you. Even though you're an adult, we're going to treat you like a little kid and keep certain pieces of information away from you, just the same way we don't tell children the truth about Christmas being a holiday created of paganism, and we tell them the nice story of Santa Claus. Really a sad thing. Next piece of news.
Before you go on, Kevin is back. He said never showed his body, shot him from a battleship.
Okay.
And Hollywood Impressive is back. He said Israeli topic is A1, but I understand why you chilled.
Right. This one is a curious headline. It reads, Inside Iraq's Political Crisis. And one thing you'll notice is every country America has gone into, they're in political crisis today. So you look at Afghanistan, they're pretty much in political crisis. There's a lot of social unrest because now that the Pashtun majority is back in control, and they're trying to reestablish their true culture after the Americans had dominated them for so long with protracted warfare. There's unrest in the country. And of course, America is still like driving that unrest along with much of the West through media and other forms. And then additionally, what you have is in Libya today, you have open slave markets where they trade sub-Saharan Africans, that is Black Africans, to work, and toil in Libya. And you have a depressed economy, you have a lack of infrastructure, and this was all from your buddy Barack Obama, the first Black president, also known as the first gay president. These are not my words. I think Time magazine called him that. And so anywhere you found America going in to help, like we're helping in Syria right now, we helped in Iraq, and now the country's in decay. And so right now we have a political crisis in a place that we've been helping them for years, and now they're in political crisis. Here we go. What's behind Iraq's escalating political crisis? Deadly clashes flared in Iraq on Monday after hundreds of people stormed its government palace. Oh, yikes. That sounds like a coup. An ominous turn of events that has plunged the country into even deeper political turmoil. And this is the kind of thing when you have a country that says, you know what? I wish Saddam was back. You know what? I wish Gaddafi was back. That would be better than what we have today, which is chaos. It would be better to have at least one strong man who's keeping all of these animals in control. But now we just have everyone trying to take control, and it's just endless lack of safety and peace. The protesters, fiercely loyal supporters of the influential Shiite cleric Mukhtar al-Sadr, had been enraged by his pledge to leave Iraqi politics, although he has made similar vows before and failed to follow through. So long story short, when you have clerics, which means very religious persons, religious scholars, or religious operants, clergy essentially, and they're running the government, you don't really have a separation of church and state. And the ironic thing that shows you the stupidity of the West is that it's not me, it's the American government, these fools. They often go in and take out the people that we really need to be in power. For example, in Syria, their government was run by Bashar al-Assad. And he's very westernized, wears Hugo Boss suits, speaks impeccable English, and was reasonably sympathetic to the West. What do? We invade Syria and start bombing them. And now the guy who replaces him is not going to be wearing Hugo Boss suits. Homie going to be yelling, Allahu Akbar. And he going to have a turban on his head, and he going to be tremendously lit. What? Okay. Going to, yeah. He going to be, let's just say he going to be lit. You heard me? The guy who replaces him is not going to be Western friendly. Similarly, you took out Saddam Hussein, who purported to be a devout Muslim. I question that significantly. But at the end of the day, he was not a cleric. He was not a religious scholar or a part of the clergy. So at some level, you didn't have to deal with the powerful force of Islam in the Middle East. Now, when you have clergy running places like Iraq, if America were to go in, you're going up against the religion of Islam. And in this case, we're talking about Shiites, right? And of course, there's a Shia and Sunni split. So these are different kind of types of Islam, if you will, each denying that the other is legitimate. But all the same, when you go up against these religious groups, now you're dealing with groups and power holders that transcend borders. Very dangerous people to deal with. They're very hard to beat because they'll fight with no pay. They'll fight till the death, and they'll fight based on principles. Whereas America has a mercenary army, which are people who are there to get their college paid for. You heard me? People who are there to get they scam on and get an easy dollar. So we are not sending warriors into these situations.
Jamal said, I can't be the only one who sees Marquett on his own phone case.
Oh. Look, when I create product, I always buy the product to make sure that it's high quality. So, it just is what it is.
Vapor Saints in a cash shop. He said, my second man and woman fanny pack arrived. I did see that. He ordered 2 of them.
Oh, 2 of the yellows.
2 of the yellows, yeah.
Oh, word. Okay. Shout out to Vapor Saint.
Kevin is back and said, Richard Branson and friends ran a train on Obama.
Oh, God.
Okay. George said, thoughts on the Edwards-Usman fight. Peace to the Saints.
I didn't see it. So I can't give any thoughts on it if it's already occurred or if it's upcoming.
I Googled it. It looks like someone got accused of cheating.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. I truly believe that if you are found guilty of cheating during a combat sport, you should receive charges for assault with a deadly weapon. The sport is dangerous and bloody enough. You should not be, bringing foreign or illegal objects into the ring. It's not proper.
OSD said, peace to the Saints. Your game and wisdom is timeless and has helped me a lot. I have gained a number of females to my roster. How can I get the most out of them? Is this the one that we meet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We the Saint had them floor seats at the was that the Canelo fight? It was a good fight. Whatever it was a good fight. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to OSD. He living a good life. He asked how he can get the most out of the ladies on his roster.
Yeah.
Number one is one thing we often forget about is you also have to offer value to them, whatever that value may be. They might just be like, man, use a cool cat. And that to them is a value. Or you help them set goals for the first time in life and help them make progress in their goals and feel better about themselves, whatever the case is. Add value. Being a real man is itself a value to that woman. So that's the foundation of the relationship. The more she sees value in you, finds you to be someone who's giving value, then she's gonna open up the gates to you and give you whatever you would ask. And you must always ask. It is necessary to make an appropriate demand based on your high standards. And don't accept anything less than what she's given people in the past. In fact, you should expect more. Set the standard, make the ask, make her work hard. She's going to enjoy it. I promise you.
Apparently, Edwards got dominated, and then in the last minute, he knocked Usman out with a head kick.
Okay. Man, MMA is brutal. I just really would not want to get kicked in the head. It seems unpleasant. Yes. Well, folks, I don't want to go through this last article. It's just disheartening. Long story short, the politics in Iraq are falling apart. But were they ever together since Saddam? No, they weren't. America, they go out and they break a country and they're never able to put it back together. And I think part of it is because of the arrogance of trying to imprint American culture on a culture that doesn't want American culture. You see, they fail to fundamentally understand Islam or to understand Arab culture or to understand the different factions within a given nation, whether they're religious factions, tribal factions, or otherwise. And so we break it, we never are able to put it back together, and then those people live in squalor afterwards. It's quite sad. I'll give you some time to send in your thoughts, questions, comments as we wind down. And to those of you who click the like button, who have supported this stream, I really do appreciate you. It means a lot. You're a good example. You're someone who's helping us get great information out to the public. So my sincere thanks and admiration. It's funny how our government is really falling apart when you have the FBI investigating former presidents. Like, this stuff is just not right and it's not normal. It is totally weird and atypical. Goodness. Saints, let us end this with our tradition, the creed of the assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The creed of the assassin. I am going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable, and I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time.
One more last minute question. Keen came back with a second super chat. He said, thoughts on one hit sucker punches?
Well, if it's in the context of a boxing match, they say protect yourself at all times. So there's really no such thing as a sucker punch. You know, certainly it's not the most honorable thing, but technically, if you landed and they go out, you won, and that's fine. You know, winning is all that's important when you're in a contest. In terms of in real life, if someone were to be sucker punched, hey, it is what it is. Try not to be the one getting sucker punched. I'd rather be the one throwing the sucker punch. And at the end of the day, if you ever start a problem with someone, whether it's a beef or a conflict, you've signed yourself up for whatever they want to do. You know, and that's why I never start a situation unless I want to go the whole mile. And I would hope that no one ever starts one with me, because God bless both of us.
You will. Romario sent a cash app. He said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.